Well, in letter number 13, we have what is described by Screwtape as the patient's reconversion. He converts in the second letter, goes astray with these worldly friends, and then comes back in letter 13. Recall that Lewis was a little unhappy with this book in the sense that by having a series of letters between Screwtape and Wormwood, you're only getting the diabolic side, and you're not getting the angelic side. You're not getting how it is that God works and how God's spiritual ministers work in the spiritual life of a Christian. But here, here among other places, we have a glimpse into how it is that God works. So as this patient is experiencing this deepening of God's grace, there's this asphyxiating cloud. There's this experience that Wormwood has of being choked as he's trying to work more on the patient. God has intervened, maybe his guardian angel, and now this fellow has experienced a recommitment to his faith. How did this reconversion come about? Screwtape blames it on various blunders, that Wormwood has allowed his patient to do certain things that he should have never let the patient do. Now, at the heart of this is this concept of detachment from self. And maybe this language is a little strange to us. In one sense, God wants us to be detached from ourselves in that he doesn't want us to be selfish and self-centered. He doesn't want our lower desires, our physical desires, our animal desires, our social, very human desires for fame and recognition and attention. He doesn't want that to dominate our lives and to be number one. He wants our moral and spiritual goods to be first. So there is a detachment from self insofar as you're breaking away from things that are lower in yourself and opening yourself up to things that are higher. But Screwtape says that there's a kind of detachment from self that they want. The devil wants a detachment from self insofar as you're breaking away from things that would really be enjoyable or naturally good, things that really fulfill the deepest longings in yourself. You detach the man from that and you put him into things that are going to be phony, artificial. So when he's hanging around these worldly friends of his, he's reading books so that he can quote them to his friends. He's maybe doing things, drinking drinks or seeing movies or talking to people that don't really even interest him, but they're the right books or the right people or the right movies. They're the things that make him look smart, intellectual, sophisticated. There's a phoniness to that. There's a way in which you've broken away from what's best in yourself and you're floating up in this inauthentic realm of impressing other people. It's a life of vanity and then ultimately unsatisfying. That's a way of doing it so that it's enjoyable, but of course there's other forms of detachment. For example, self-pity. That's why Screwtape says, this guy is better off having a toothache. That's going to really let him know what's going on with himself, much more than some kind of great Sturm und Drang session of how unappreciated it is, how lonely he is, how his genius is unrecognized by people around him. That sort of detachment from self is, of course, a kind of self-indulgence. It's phony. And things like toothaches actually are a better bellwether of who you really are and what you're really up to and what really matters. One of the things that we have to be aware of as we're looking at this section, it seems perhaps improbable to us that the impetus for this reconversion was this patient walking down to an old mill, having tea there, reading a book that he really liked. Maybe that sounds sort of strange to us, but notice that what Lewis is driving at here is that wherever you have pleasures that are natural, basic human pleasures, not these phony artificial ones, they are a kind of way into reality. And the more that someone is into reality itself, the more they're open to higher and better things. So it's not that walking to the mill or reading the book, enjoying cocoa or cricket, some of these other pleasures that he refers to in this letter, it's not that these are somehow supernatural or transcendental pleasures. It's because these are personal tastes that have a kind of innocence, humility, kind of self-forgetfulness about them. They're not pretentious. They're not things that you adopt to advance in the world and look sophisticated, look intelligent, and look important, and puff yourself up. If you have these kind of basic natural pleasures, there is a kind of innocence to them that at least removes the things that would block God from working in your soul. Once this guy rediscovers things that he genuinely likes, the pleasures of hanging out with his worldly friends become pretty phony. So, what does Screwtape recommend now that this patient has recommitted himself, that he's returned back to his faith with some kind of seriousness? The key thing is, don't let him act. Some readers are surprised to see Lewis say, keep his faith in his feelings and in his imagination. Don't you want his faith out of that entirely? But the reason that Lewis communicates that through Screwtape is because your faith as a kind of living thing is not just in your feelings and your imagination. Remember back to those concentric circles, that at the heart of your character and who you are is the will. It's what you choose to do. So let this guy journal, write diaries, have interviews, blog. Let him do whatever he wants, just as long as he doesn't act. Just as long he doesn't choose prayer and worship and deeds of self-sacrifice, generosity, compassion. So long as he's not doing anything, then the conversion means nothing. It doesn't change the fundamental way that this guy lives. And that's what's at the heart, of course, of the Christian life. Not just that you are hearers of the word, but that you are doers of the word. Well, in the next letter, we'll look at how it is that Screwtape intends to ruin this patient's newly discovered humility.